Hello, everyone. Ian Barkin here. Welcome back to another episode of OneTAKE Live. I hope this finds you all well, healthy, sane, happy, and gearing up for the holiday season. This is a special episode because this is the last OneTAKE episode of the year, the last episode of 2020. And it's been a tremendous year, of highs and lows, silver linings and dumpster fires. And I've been so honored to have spent my time with so many incredible guests and have shared my time with such an awesome audience. So thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in. As always, as you're tuning in, please share your name and your location as you join us. Before we get started, also want to highlight that the new episode, the next episode of the Sykes Quarterly is out, is live, is up. So you should absolutely check that out. It's issue number 4, Accelerating Digital Transformation, because we just need more writing about digital transformation. But this one's really, I think, pretty poignant because it's got some incredible experts who've been there, who've done that, who've been in the trenches, who know what works, who know why things fail. And I think you'll get a kick out of the article. So do check that out. So, as I said, last episode of OneTAKE for the year, and I am thrilled to say we've saved one of the best for last. This discussion continues on our theme around customer experience and around care. And without any further ado, I could not be more excited to welcome my guest for this episode of OneTAKE, Alice Sesay Pope. Alice, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ian. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. It's great to have you. So Alice, this is fun because we usually start and I ask my guest about their origin story and where they're from and what they wanted to be when they grew up. And I will ask you that same set of questions. But one of the things that I found fun as I was doing my research and as we talked this morning was you and I both grew up in Maryland, which is cool. So I guess go Maryland. The teams I used to follow have all changed their names now, so but there you have it. So okay, so I've given some of your origin story with the Maryland part, but you had an interesting degree. I've spoken to a lot of people in customer success and experience, and more often than not, they majored in sociology or psychology or history or something. You did not. So maybe we start there. Tell us what you went to school for and why, I suppose, and what did you want to be when you grew up?
So there wasn't a specific reason why I majored in chemical engineering. I excelled in math and chemistry when I was in high school and therefore majored in chemical engineering. Did not really understand what a chemical engineer did, although I was exposed to various engineering summer programs when I was in college. And majored in chemical engineering, what that did for me was really enabled me to be a good problem solver. And then also gave me the opportunity to work in various industries once I got into the workforce. So no rhyme or reason, just that love for math and chemistry.
That's a pretty solid rhyme and reason. So that's amazing. And we'll come back to that love of math in a moment because foundational skills. I mean, it's whatever you ultimately do when you grow up, having that in your skill set, in your tool belt is invaluable. So then you've had a really interesting exposure to some very different industries. And sort of more recently in your career, you spent a lot of time in the financial services industry. But start us back at the beginning because there are some great names of companies that you've been at.
Right. So I started out my career at Eastman Kodak Company. So that dates me. If I say Eastman Kodak Company, there are people that might not even know who that company is. But when I started, they were a Fortune 50 company with over 100,000 employees. So started out with them in a very traditional engineering research and development role. While I was there, I got my Six Sigma Master Black Belt, and that was a game changer for me because it gave me a very disciplined manner to look at problems and to solve them with cross-functional teams. I later transitioned to Johnson and Johnson, so went from the consumer products to healthcare, and from healthcare to technology at a software company, Microsoft.
I've heard of them.
Microsoft was my first opportunity to truly manage a contact center and to manage it globally. And then after I worked at Microsoft, I transitioned my career to manage operations and contact centers at financial institutions. So I've worked at Capital One, First Horizon National, USAA, and now Visa, which is a payments company.
Outstanding. Which is I love that. And you don't need to do that, right? Like software company called Microsoft, Visa, it's a payment company. Interesting. So absolute major game-changing brands. One of them that you're right. If you're somewhat younger, you know Kodak more as sort of the cautionary tale around transformation than you know them for their film technology. But we'll get back to that in a moment too. But as you said, and so now you are at Visa, you're the Senior VP and Global Head of Contact Centers at Visa, which is, I've got to imagine, a very big and very important role in which so much of what you just laid out, everything from penchant towards structure and math and your rigor from your Six Sigma history. And I've also got to imagine just that which you picked up from being in software, in consumer goods, in other technology, and I guess photographic and other serves you well to this day.
It does. It does. But one thing that remains true in all of those industries and companies is that the customer is important.
Yeah.
And so along the way, I did get an MBA because although I was good in math and chemistry, I noticed that there were also some business skills I wanted to develop in, but I always had a passion for the customer. And the reoccurring theme in my career is that if you put the customer at the forefront of your strategy, your strategy will be a winning one.
Right. No, I love that. And that's that's sort of the wrap up. We'll get there because so much of what you talk about, you can tell is motivated by that. And we joked before we went live that one of the greatest things I can have when I have a guest on is a guest who's written a book, and so because it's hugely helpful for me in my research. And so for all of those listening, we'll put links to this. I think we already put it in the heads up promo. But so you wrote a book, and a few years ago now, you wrote a book called Transformation from the Inside Out, and I guess first talk to me about the inspiration for that. Why did you feel that there was a book in you that needed to come out, and then and then I'm going to take us through some of the sections because it's a great book and actually, as it says on the cover, it is both relevant and practical, and I agree with both of those statements.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate in my career to work for some amazing people and lead some amazing teams, and we've been able to make significant transformation. And in many cases, those transformations occurred rapidly. We had clear business results to prove that a significant change happened that was positive to the P&L and to also our customer experience metrics. And people would always say, Alice, how do you do it? As if it was a magic wand. And it wasn't. It was always a very methodical process. So I finally had some time. I've always seemed like I'm always on the run, the next big challenge. And there was a time in my career that I said, you know what, I'm going to spend some time and write this book. And it's a good framework for even me to look back. And I still utilize a lot of those principles today.
That's great. That's great. And I would just choose to make people believe I'm magical rather than giving away all the answers. But it's interesting because it was, I guess I'm just attuned to this now, but page 48. Page 48 was when you used the word digital before the word transformation. And up until that point, you're just speaking about a broader transformation, which I found refreshing, I suppose is the word, just because we attribute too much of transformation to just being that which is being created by technology at this point. What was your approach? I mean, because you do talk about technology, you talk about the classic people, process, and technology sort of triptych, but you're speaking about a bigger transformation. What is your definition of transformation that you're helping people to achieve in the book?
So transformation is the ability to make a change that is dramatically different from where you started.
Okay.
So many times people think of transformation and they think of a small little change, or they believe it's change management. But true transformation, you attain a goal that looks dramatically different from where you started.
Okay.
And in the book, I really talk about it's not just that the technology changes, but even your people and their energy and the culture changes.
Right. Well, and that's what, there's several things I want to talk about on that in that regard too, because I loved that you really did spend a lot of time discussing culture, as well as some of the sort of the necessary evils of things like internal politics and maybe resistance to change and having to win people over. But so much of your transformation emphasis was on winning people's sort of hearts and minds within the organization, which I resonates with me, and I think it's invaluable. I'm going to throw a question at you from your own book. You have this great format where at the end of every chapter you ask the reader questions, and I thought, that's useful for me. That's so the question I have for you, and it's actually right after your transformation chapter, but it was about what is the most memorable business transformation that you've ever experienced?
I would say for me, the most memorable transformation was during my time at Capital One.
Okay.
And when I took over our customer advocacy organization. And the reason why is because it was a dramatic shift. It was the people, there was a shift in the people, and that employee satisfaction increased significantly.
Okay.
There was a shift in the customers we were able to retain because there was a focus on client experience. There was digital transformation. There was changes in our processes. And also there was a change in our customers. Our customers began giving us praise unsolicited. That rarely happens, right? Customers typically reach out when there is a big problem, and their net promoter scores increase. So we would make agile changes in small chunks. And every month we could see changes in our employee experience, our client experience, but also in all of our operational metrics. And there was, during that time, there was just a big energy with the team, with the changes. And it was, at a time where perhaps it took a lot of work to convince the employees that this change could be exciting.
Right.
But it was winning their hearts. When I think about that, it was, we won the hearts of the people, and the people believed in the change. And then it began to transcend organizations way beyond the contact center.
That is a spectacular answer. And you started with employee experience, which is an all too often sort of overlooked component in the experience equation, I suppose, because everyone seems to be, if they are focused on experience at all, they're just talking about the customer experience. But as you point out, you can't achieve that unless the means to the end is on board, and passionately so.
Right.
Did that, I mean, where in the organization did that emanate from? Not the passion itself, but the direction, the drive, the vision that says we're committing to this and we're going for it, just full steam ahead.
It was really interesting. I was very fortunate at that time to have a leader that's, when he brought me on board, he said, Alice, I want you to assess the organization. And if you believe we need to fire everybody and start from scratch, That'll be great. And I'm like, no, we absolutely don't want to do that. So I really had the empowerment, and we had empowerments at all levels of the organization. But it dawned on me. I started that role in January, and there's a part in the book that I talk about. It was a cold morning.
Mhm.
And I walked through the new organization that I was now going to be a leader, and everybody had sort of a sad face. And I'm wondering if these people are the ones talking, sending emails and social media responses to our clients, but they don't seem happy about coming to work every day.
Right.
Doesn't that somehow reflect in their interactions?
Yeah.
So I really initially was going to focus on the client experience, which that's usually what I'd lean towards. But I thought if I could win the hearts of the people
Yes.
and develop them and give them the skills and let them know how important they are,
Mhm.
and I mean the employees as well as their managers and leaders, then we could get that momentum to truly partner together
Right.
to improve the overall client experience.
Right. Now, if I'm thinking of the same part of the book, that really struck me because I think that the part that I'm remembering, you were talking about how you were sitting in your office and sort of dealing with some excruciating metrics, but you walked the floor and you found this one agent who was quote unquote excited and upbeat about the call that she was on, and you honed in and went, wait, what's going on here? There's
Right.
something special here that if we can harness and
Yeah.
apply. So I really, having spent a lot of time in delivery organizations throughout my career, I really related to you in that, because that's always been probably the most impactful, one of my most memorable, and one of my favorite elements of the job is to walk the floor and
Yeah.
to read the room and to get a sense of the people, and as you said, if they're in it, if they're behind the mission, then you're good. If they're
Right.
not, then nothing else really matters.
Right.
So, okay, so we're going to pivot, because you then go on to a next section, which I love, where you talk about mass level extinction events. And that's sort of it's like the ultimate kick in the butt to say you've got to do something, or face irrelevance. And what's so compelling is, as we refer back to your career, you spent time at an organization that meant a lot to you, that is the poster child for mass level extinction events. Um, what are the features or factors that you see that you think are sort of telltale signs that that's happening in an industry and should be the catalyst to get on with change?
One is that you can't just be internally focused.
Yes.
And no matter how great your company is, no matter how great your business results are, you have to pay close attention to what's happening in the external environment.
Yeah.
And in the external environment, it's not just your competitor, but also what other industries are doing. Because sometimes we like to benchmark ourselves just to other companies or organizations that have similar products. That's one component of it. But it's really ensuring that you're paying close attention to the trends in the organization.
Yeah.
I would have to say that what Amazon, Facebook, Apple, Google, some of those companies have done has changed customer requirements. And you got to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
And you also have to be willing to make the investments for change. Because so many times, just because you're making money today, it doesn't mean that you should stop making investments. And so many times companies forget that piece.
So there's the healthy fear, uncertainty, doubt, again, sort of kick to the pants that says always be alert and always be looking.
Always be alert.
I found so interesting in that focus of yours. You've spent a lot of time, as you mentioned recently in your career, in financial services. And I would imagine you've seen a lot of disruption and
Mhm.
and things that might be perceived as mass extinction events,
Mhm.
perhaps even accelerated by the fact that we've because of this is
Mhm.
the asterisk, the question in
Mhm.
every discussion anyone's having these days, but because of
Mhm.
COVID, because of
Mhm.
quarantining, because
Mhm.
of an inability to sort of exercise your existing footprint in some cases,
Mhm.
everyone's had to do things differently.
Right.
Do you think the financial services space is facing any degree of extinction events that it needs to be sort of closely keeping an eye on?
That's a good question, and I believe many great financial leaders have been paying close attention to the trends.
Right.
Although we have seen some consolidation in the financial industry, in many cases, the reason why there's the consolidation is so that smaller companies can merge with other institutions so that together they can make better investments into digital transformation.
Okay.
um, Less people are going into branches. The fintech world has definitely changed. More people are utilizing their mobile devices to interact with their financial institutions, and therefore the experience has to be a very sophisticated
Mhm.
experience on those mobile applications, and it must be one that not only meets but in some cases exceeds the client experience, because if not, of course, we know there's Cash App and so many other avenues that clients can use. Clients have many options,
Right.
and that's one thing that we need to pay close attention to. So to answer your question, in short, I believe that the financial institutions that continue to change, continue to make the right investments in digital transformation, pay close and that are paying close attention to the changes in the industry, they will still exist. The others that cannot will no longer be in existence.
That's like, that deserves sort of ominous music right after you said it, but I completely agree. And you named all of you named the interesting trend and the showcases of that trend of it's
Mhm.
irrelevant now which industry you're in because experiences are being created in
Mhm.
retail and consumer
Right.
that just happens to be
Mhm.
that's raising the bar, I suppose, in the
Mhm.
minds of customers that think that they want better visibility or speed or smartphone applications that work a certain way.
Right.
And everybody's got to be aware of that. So that's
Mhm.
a great segue into technology. Before we go into technology, though, I constantly have to remind myself to welcome all of our lovely guests, and I will do so now. So just want to say welcome to this OneTAKE episode, Matt Sullivan. Hello, Shay. Thank you for joining us. Chris Brunstetter, Mary Ridgway, Bo Kabarov, AJ Hanna, Kedwin, Chris Allen. Thank you guys all for joining us. Please share any questions that you have for us, for Alice, and we will get to them. So Alice, technology-wise, and like I said, you emphasize transformation in general, but then you do speak about technology specifically. Are there particular technologies? I mean, you mentioned people interacting through chat and
Mhm.
interacting with smartphone applications. Are there technologies that you think are the real game changers right now, the real ones that are making a difference to customer care and service as we speak?
It's funny you ask. I thought that you would bring that up, and I will say I'm not going to list a particular technology because I'm not here today to endorse any particular technology. There's so
Like it,
many of them that exist,
elusive. This
but
is
I will
every
say,
one of my questions now is just going to try to get you to endorse something. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, Keep going.
but I will say the technologies that make the experience simple, fast, and right are going to be the winners.
Okay.
So the technologies that also enhance the client experience and optimize it are also going to be the winners.
Right.
So there's a variety of things, right? I read an article earlier today that said your clients like text messages, you should as well. right?
Right.
How many people, how many organizations don't have a way to connect with their clients via text message? They're still depending on some of the traditional methods
Mhm.
or traditional channels to engage. So it's really understanding what those preferences are. And then we have, a new generation that they even have new other methods that they're utilizing to engage. So I would say it's not, so many times people talk about omni-channel. To me,
Mhm.
I don't believe you have to have every channel, but you definitely have to have the channels that your clients prefer.
Right. Well, it
Mhm.
seems to become. I mean, you can't fight gravity, I suppose. It is, and maybe it's a generational thing. That I also think it's in some cases a geographical or regional thing as well. But if somebody wants to talk to someone on the phone, you've got to have that ability to address that person in that
Exactly.
way. Otherwise, they
Mhm.
feel like they're being pushed into a guinea pig trial where they've got to
Right.
text, and it's not their comfortable way of interacting. Whereas if somebody else just wants to, someone else is multitasking, doing 15
Mhm.
different things right now,
Mhm.
text is better, and that's the way
Right.
that they want to
Right.
communicate. So
Right.
as you said, you need to have probably the ability to do all of them, but you're not obligated to do all of them. You
Mhm.
just have to figure out which
Right.
ones matter the most and
Right.
add the most value.
Right. And the phone channel is still important.
Yeah,
So many people believe the phone channel is going to go away. I don't. There's still a people element that's important.
perfect. And
Mhm.
and I want to get there because I think before we get to people, I'm saving the best pillar of process technology and people for last.
Okay.
But again, your background and your skill and your fascination with math,
Mhm.
your training and certification
Mhm.
in Six Sigma makes
Mhm.
you a very methodical person, I imagine, in approaching how to make
Mhm.
experiences good, how to transform
Mhm.
organizations.
Mhm.
You spoke in something I watched you were interviewed. You talked about having a multi-metric approach to
Mhm.
how to sort of stage out and measure transformation.
Mhm.
What metrics are your favorite? That got really geeky, but I really, what metrics are your favorite in a multi-metric approach?
I like customer effort.
Okay,
And a lot of people don't think of customer effort. But the reason why customer effort, because it's not just do I want my problem satisfied? Because sometimes people will say it's problem satisfaction or it's net promoter. But I want to know that I can engage with a brand and it's effortless. It's as simple and easy as can be. How many times do we recommend a service because it was such a simple interaction? I would
right,
say it was a beautiful experience.
beautiful.
So I like that metric.
Love it. So for those listening who might not be as familiar, define effort, the effort score for us.
So, for me, and different organizations have a way how they measure it. And it depends on how many things a customer has to do to engage with you.
Hmm,
Some organizations just have a simple question regarding that says how difficult or hard was it for you to engage.
right,
For me, it's was it in first contact, and how many actions did I as a consumer have to take
right.
to ensure that um, whatever I needed or wanted from that organization, that I received it.
I see.
The best ways for me is when the customer doesn't have to do a thing.
Right,
So, I'll give an example for Amazon. When you purchase something and you don't even have to think when is it going to get to you, you get a text message that says your order is on the way. And by
right.
the way, when it arrives at your home, there's a photo that tells you it's at your door.
Hmm.
You as a customer did nothing once you placed that transaction. To me, those are the best ones.
I only go to my front door now when I get texts from Amazon with packages. I just, you know, it's actually pretty funny that you literally know it's there before you walk out the door, and it's the only reason
Yeah.
I go to my front door. Um,
That's a
the especially
yeah,
now with holidays and all the packages showing up.
right.
And I love that you pointed that out, because I understand the relevance of asking people how good is the service you just got, but
Mhm,
I loved and resonated with that effort concept too, and I
mhm.
heard it a while ago, because it could be an amazing service. I still didn't want it. I didn't want to have to
Right,
make that call, and so
right.
asking me to rate how much I liked something I didn't want is
Exactly.
is it's very most interesting, and perhaps a little annoying. Um,
Yeah.
you're almost drawing my attention to the fact that I had to make the call, and I'd rather just be left alone. Um,
Right.
and as you said, I mean, most customers are prone to. I'll make well, I tend not to do this, but a lot of people seem to make time to complain about something and make less time to rave about something in a positive manner. So it's somewhat hard to to gauge when you're actually making people happy. So are
Right.
there, I guess in that regard, to create delight, create a happy customer, are there any other sort of telltale signs you look for that you measure or think are useful?
Identify the customer's issue before it becomes an issue.
I like it.
Right. And that's really the only way how you can do that is really understanding your customer journey
Yeah,
and having that's where the analytical geeky part of me comes in.
nice.
But it's really understanding each phase of your process. And if there's an instance that you anticipate a client might have a problem, resolve it before the client contacts you regarding that.
Right. No, I love it. Does that take, I guess there's a customer journey, there's a mapping element there. Is
Mhm.
there is there a heavy technology element there that you're watching for telltale signs? I guess in financial services, it would be, a check bounces,
Mhm.
or a credit is applied for, or a new account is opened, and that usually triggers that either it went well, we won't hear from them, or something seems like it might be stuck. We're about to hear
Right.
from them, so let's get out ahead of
Yeah.
it.
You can definitely start with a customer journey map, but there's so many CRM tools that you can input
Yeah,
critical areas of your journey map
right.
into that CRM tool that enables you to identify those pain points. And
Gotcha.
to me, there needs to be, for it to be extremely effective, there needs to be an automated element as well.
Okay. So you've gone there now. So I'm going to talk about automation. So
Okay.
um, so the contact center of the future, where
Mm-hmm.
where we are anticipating making things
Mm-hmm.
easy,
Mm-hmm.
and leveraging technology where we can. Are
Mm-hmm.
we all doomed because robots are going to take our jobs?
That's funny. I don't believe robots will take our jobs.
Yeah.
I do believe, though, there'll be lots of transactions that through machine learning, artificial intelligence,
Right.
that we won't need a human interaction, but there will still be complex issues that just need to be handled with care, that a human will resolve those, will service those much better than a quote unquote robot.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You So this is a lead in to something I loved that you covered in the book, and that you clearly embrace in the way
Mhm,
that you approach this. But you
mhm,
talk about how in that one organization where you had to sort of rally the troops and get them
mhm,
motivated, is you came up with a tagline
mhm,
for the mission of the team. Can you share
mhm.
that tagline and what that meant to the team and what it meant to you?
Yes, passion for excellence, service from the heart.
Okay.
So there were two things I wanted the associates to know. I wanted them to come to work every day and be excited that they were going to deliver excellence. And it wasn't just excellence in the way how they interacted with the clients, but it was also how they interacted with each other.
Okay.
And that every day when they showed up, they were going to bring their best self to work and do their work with excellence. And we were going to support them and encourage them and provide the right policies, procedures, and culture in place so that they can have a passion to do their work in excellence. And that wasn't just the agents, that meant I would lead with a passion. And all the leaders in that organization led with a passion. And it was always to do our very best. We weren't going to settle with just being average or good. We wanted to deliver our very best. And then service from the heart, to remember the human element.
Mm-hmm.
Even though passion for excellence, service from the heart was something that was developed years ago, as I even look back on this year and all the challenges that people around the world have faced, wow, those interactions that truly demonstrated that people care, that that's a human element, to me, those are the best ones. And that's what really distinguishes organizations that deliver a great experience, and organizations that will continue to be profitable many, many years to come, where employees will not also give their best, but employees will want to work there.
That's tremendous. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know there was a little heart icon that people could hit, and people have been hitting that a lot as you were sharing your philosophy. So now, thank you, and that obviously means a lot to everyone who's listening, and it meant a lot to me. And the reason I sort of asked that somewhat flippant question of, are we doomed and are robots going to take all of our jobs, is because they won't, and they can't, and they certainly aren't well positioned to do exactly what you just described. But I think to some degree they are there and can help us to do more of what you just described.
Right.
Because the robotic, the mundane, is taken off the hands or augmented so that people can do their best, so that passion for excellence is possible, and they can really focus on doing a great job. But then, as you pointed out, again, it really resonated with me, that woman who was excited and upbeat about what she was doing. That's you can't automate that.
You can't.
And so that's what I like so much about your emphasis on just on humans in general, and on your team specifically. I think it's a powerful point of view. And there's no question in there. I've just literally just wanted to lay that out there. So what are you excited about next, as far as, you're clearly using best practices as it relates to metrics and memeasurements and continuous improvement. You're applying technology where it makes sense, but heavily emphasizing just great teams for the sake, I imagine, of reducing attrition, for keeping people around, for having their institutional knowledge always grow to create better experiences. What's next for you? What's next as far as that challenge to continue to create great service?
To me, it's what the contact center of the future is going to look like post-COVID.
Okay.
There's probably going to be a lot more remote work. We're still going to need to engage with our associates, but we're going to have to figure out how to do that in many ways, through digital channels. I truly believe there might even be greater investment in some digital solutions, because not only will contact centers, a majority of contact centers, be working remotely, I believe lots of other people will as well. And so they're going to demand digital solutions. And in the midst of all that, we still have to hone in on the human element. So how do you find out if your employee is having a bad day when perhaps you can't see them? So it's going to require us to be more attentive to what's going on with our associates. I want to say something. In the midst of COVID, our teams have been working extremely hard to provide support for our clients all over the world. And in one of my meetings, on the agenda item, I just had the question, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And, so many of my leaders, they're ambitious people. They always want to do the right thing. And, they were sort of taken aback. And when we went around the room and said, "How are you doing?" There were some people that were almost in tears
Right.
because the pandemic has put them in so much stress. And sometimes some of us are in denial. We've had sick parents to take care of, or people that we're worried about, or someone that we know that's been impacted by this pandemic, or someone that has lost their job. So much has happened to people we know all over the world.
Yes.
And what I would like to say as business leaders, we are stressed out because there's so much more work that we have to do, but don't forget the people element. Because if you take care of your people as you continue to make significant business changes, not only will your teams trust you as you make big digital transformations that may, in some cases, even negatively impact their lives, people will give you the respect, and they will thank you that you always had an element, a human element, and you cared.
Right.
So there are going to be digital solutions, but let's not forget to care.
Beautifully put, and wonderfully wrapped up. I couldn't agree more that the silver lining of 2020, despite all of the hardship, despite all the struggle and all the stress that so many of us have faced, I think is exactly as you just highlighted. It made us show our human side. It required that we be empathetic, and I have had similar meetings to the one that you had, where we've had just tea time, where we sort of sit around and try to do no work or as little as possible, but merely just check in on each other. Because now more so than ever, and before as well, but now more so than ever, just the act of checking in, having that empathy and being human, it really resonates.
Yeah.
So with that, Alice, thank you so much for taking time out of your extremely busy schedule to share your insights and your experience with us, to geek out, to explain how a chemical engineer became such a leader and innovator and shaper of customer care and contact center as an industry. And I'll say to all of our listeners as well, first, thank you everyone who joined us today, who's joined me on this OneTAKE journey over the course of 2020. I wish everyone a happy holidays, and please stay safe, stay well, take care of each other. And with that, thank you so much, Alice, for joining me today.
Thank you, Ian. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.